Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this video on how to put together a budget. I know when people hear the B word, it's immediately one of those things that they're not excited about. It just sounds like, running your nails across chalkboard. But it's something that when you're looking at getting your finance in order, it's absolutely the first step of doing that and getting started correctly. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is going over a few basic things on one, what a budget is, how you can start putting one together, just the steps that are involved, and some tools that you can use as you're starting to help you keep on track. So as we get into it, I'm going to do a quick screen share so you guys can see what I go through. And I wanted to start with first, why is the budget important? It's obviously not something anyone likes doing, okay? But let's look at kind of where the economy is as a whole. All right, this is from Forbes, just 2016. It said that more than half of Americans right now have less than $500 in their savings account. Reuters said that a third of people right now have no retirement savings or pension at all. So you think 1 in 3 people. The Employee Benefit Research Institute said that more than half of all workers have less than $25,000 in their retirement accounts. Life and Health Pro said that 95 million U.S. adults don't have any life insurance at all. Fortune said that the average household with credit card debt carries almost $16,000 just in their credit cards. And then you again see Reuters here saying that more than 2/3 of people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. So I want you to think about that is that one of the questions that, that I'll talk to people about is when we're talking about their finances, and I'll ask, hey, do you have a written program to get out of debt and to retire financially secure? And you guys can imagine if I were to sit down and talk to 100 families and ask them that one question, guess what 95+% of people in the middle market say? Of course, it's no. All right. So just a few more things I wanted to show, just because I know a lot of us don't spend time reading this. This is, let's see, this was from NBC's, and it talked about how Americans need more financial education. It said that financial services companies spend billions of dollars a year marketing their products and services, credit cards, checking and savings accounts, car loans, mortgages, and home equity products. But by comparison, very little is spent to provide American children with the tools they'll need to deal with their financial decisions they'll face in life. All right. It said here that $17 billion annually is spent on consumer marketing, but only about $670 million is spent towards financial education. So that means that $54 is spent in marketing for every $2 that's spent in education. So why do I go over this with you guys? Because what you're doing right now is going to set you apart. There's so little financial literacy in America. Most people have never had something as simple as putting a budget on how to do it. No one's ever showed them how to do it. So we're going to go into that. What a budget is. Let's start with the definition of a budget. A budget, the definition is it's an estimate of income and expenses for a set period of time. I'll say that one more time. It's an estimate of income and expenses for a set period of time. So basically, it's a balance sheet showing what is your income versus what your expenses are. Pretty simple, right? Going into the steps, okay, like how do you even start putting together a budget? Well, there's 4 steps, okay? I think step number 1 is you're going to need to list all of what I would call your hard expenses. So these are expenses that don't change from month to month. These are going to be your rent or your mortgage. These are going to be your insurance premiums. These are going to be if you have a car payment, things like that are kind of set in stone. So step 1 is listing all those out. And I'm going to show you a tool here in just a sec to help you do that. Step 2 is I would recommend using a budget worksheet to list all the other expenses. So these aren't necessarily set in stone, but they're things you still have to have. For example, groceries. Groceries is something that you could spend as much as you wanted to, or you could spend less, all right? Eating out is another expense, stuff like that. Stuff that you're going to do, gas, all right? It's an expense that you're going to have, but it could fluctuate, all right? That's step 2 is getting those on a list. And I'll show you something here in a sec, like I said. Step 3 is going to be comparing the goal that you have for your softer expenses to the income that you're making, okay? So if you go through and list out your goal for all those other soft expenses, and then you find that those are 5,000, but you only make 4,000, well, obviously you need to make some adjustments there to get everything lined up, okay? And last but not least is you're going to want to track what you're spending on a day-by-day or at a very minimum a week-by-week basis, just to make sure that you stay on pace with what the goals are that you have established. So let me show you guys some tools, all right? Here's some really cool tools that anyone and everyone has access to. They're free. If you have a Gmail account, you're going to have access to what's called Google Sheets. So if you're here, I'm using Google Chrome. You can see over here, there's this little checker box thing in the right corner. All right, if you click that, that's going to open up this window here. If you click Docs, it's going to open up this upcoming window here where it's going to list all your Google Docs. One of the free programs in Google is they have what's called Google Sheets. All right, so when you click Google Sheets, at the very top, you're going to see right up here, there's a spot where it says monthly budget. So this is the tool that I'm going to use to show you. The one that I'm using, I've made some changes to and added a few things. If you'd like that updated copy, you can shoot me an email. I'll leave my email in the link below, just because I've made some changes. But if nothing else, you can click right here and get started. Now, the one that I've made is this right here. So this is what it looks like once you click open that, okay? You're going to notice a couple things here. So you'll see where it's got your monthly budget, start balance and imbalance. I don't really use that much, but over here, if you want, you can start with the balance if you wanted to. I just leave that as 0. All right. Over here, you can see we've got your expenses on the left side and your income on the right side. All right. Now, in this, I've listed, again, there's no way to have a catch-all, but I've tried to list as many of the things that I can think of that go into someone's day-to-day budget on a monthly basis, okay? So you see under both the expenses and the income side, on expenses, you'll have where it says plans, you'll have actual, and you'll have the difference. Same thing on the income side is you'll have planned, actual, and difference. So what that means, what you can use this tool to do is you can go through and on your planned expenses, you can go in there and you can type it. So let's say your rent, all right, we're here in Montana, so I know this is probably low for the rest of the United States, but let's say your rent is $500, all right? You know it's $500 every single month, so you could type in $500 there. Let's say that you know your mobile phone between you and your spouse is $110, all right? You would type in 110 there. Versus, let's say like electricity and gas, that's gonna fluctuate for most people. So you can type in what you're anticipating. You can see in this example, we typed in 50, but then let's say if you went to the actual, okay, you can type in what you actually spend there. So for those things we talked about earlier, like the mortgage and rent, you can see we put 500 as planned, actual was 500, all right? Let's say though on your electricity, you anticipated it being 50, but the actual is 60. You can see right here that we've got a -10 in the difference, all right? And so what you can do is you can use this, like we said, for steps 1 and 2 to list all your hard expenses, all right? And then also using this budget worksheet to set a goal for all your fluctuating expenses. So here's something you can come through and on the left-hand side, just enter what you think you're gonna spend. And this will give you a chance to kind of have a come to Jesus moment and figure out what's realistic, what's not, okay? From what you're gonna do there though, is that you can come over here and type in what your paychecks are. So let's assume that you're, like most people, and the income you have coming in is typically just from, you know, getting paid. Well, under paycheck, you would type in what you and your spouse's paycheck is, all right? If you're someone who works on commission, maybe you're anticipating making a certain amount, but then maybe in this example, you planned on making $5,500, but you only made $5,000. You can see that adjusts things. Now, as I just did, I typed something and says, heads up, you're trying to edit a part of sheet that shouldn't be changed. You can just hit don't show me that again for 5 minutes and you're good, okay? So what happens here though is that as we come up here, you'll see that based on the numbers that we put down here and these totals here, it's gonna adjust our planned expenses versus our actual, and then our income and our actual, all right? The end balance is gonna calculate automatically for you. So let's say over here, I'm gonna just change this back to $5,500. You can see here is that based on this budget we went through, based on what we planned, and then what we also typed into actual, you can see it left us with a positive value of $465. So we have $465 left over, all right? Now, if we went over here, and again, I changed this from, I thought I was gonna make 5,500, but I only made 4,500, all right? Well, now you can see I have a negative balance in my end balance, all right? And so that's one way that this number can be different. Another way that this could be different is, let's say again, you had expenses that you thought you were going to have, in your normal day-to-day stuff, but then something happened where home improvements, you have plan zero, but something went out on the house and you had to spend, an extra $800 this month to buy a new dryer or something. All right. Well, you can see again, what it does is it affects your imbalance, so you can just keep track of where you're at on a month-to-month basis. So going through all this, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, and I know it's so simple, but really it comes down to making a list of what you're going to spend and then keeping track of what you actually do spend, and then having this tool do all the math and all the calculating for you so that you can stay on pace. Now, with that, as you go through and you build this for yourself, again, if you'd like a link of this one specifically, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to share this with you. All right. Another thing that you can use is use an expense tracker. I use an app called Expensify. It's a free app. It's something you do have to register for, but I've been using it for 2 years and it's completely free. Okay. As you go in, you can use this to track your expenses on a day-by-day basis. So when you go out and you buy anything, all right, anything, you just add it to your expense chart. So for example, let's say you can see here, I went to Starbucks, all right. I use this more for my business tracking expenses, but you could absolutely use it for your day-to-day expenses. So if I went to Starbucks, I can one click, as I upload this, I can upload where I went, the date, the total that I spent, the category is meals, and then I can put a comment, this is when I was traveling, coming back from Seattle. And then I also can take a picture of the receipt, so I've got a copy of that. This is really helpful if you're keeping track of your business expenses, if you're self-employed. And then I've got it all saved. It uploads to the cloud. And then I can come over here and I can run a monthly report. If I wanted to run a report from April of 2017 to April 1st to April 30th, well, boom, I can run a report, click this little graph button over here, and it shows I spent a total of $258 that I tracked. Now, again, this is just my business expenses in this account. So it's not everything, but just like that, you can see where it's going. You have a chart where you can keep track of what you spend it and add a description for. And this way you can, like I said, at a very minimum, once a week, go in and spend 10 to 15 minutes just to upload and keep track of where your money's at. What this is going to do is it's going to put you in a position where you're going to start freeing up $100, $200, even $300 plus per month on silly things where you're nickeling and diming yourself. I mean, I heard someone talk about it. It used to be that, an impulse buy was you bought a candy bar as you were checking out of the grocery store. But because of technology and the way our world works today, you could sit there and be on your computer at home, and with a few clicks of a button, you can buy a $200, $300 appliance or, a piece of electronic equipment, and then at the end of the month, be wondering where all your money's going. So by following this, again, using this worksheet, I think will really give you the opportunity to see where your money's going and to start having a plan of how you can spend less on these different items. If there's any questions you guys have, I know this is probably the most boring video you've ever watched, but hopefully it's also something simple that you can begin putting into place and start improving your financial situation. But like I said, is if you get a budget going, you're going to start finding areas that you can free up money. With that freed up money, you can start building an emergency fund. You can start paying down your debt quicker. You can start accelerating your retirement savings. You can start putting yourself in a spot where you're working towards financial independence. And while all your friends are out there spending tons of money that they don't have, thinking that they can afford items because they can afford the payments, you're going to be living in a way where you're going to have control of your finances. And little things that rock other people's worlds because they have no money saved, you're going to be bulletproof too. So I hope this helps. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, like I said, my email is linked below. You can feel free to reach out to me and I'll happily answer any questions that I can. Hey, thank you guys so much. Have a great day.